Hello, everybody. My name is Corey Hughes, and I'm here to talk about opioid addiction and its effect on individuals as well as the state. According to the Tennessee.gov website, 1,631 people died from opioid overdoses in 2016. That's more people than car crashes claimed in the same year. There's been a steady increase in opioid deaths in the last decade and rose over 8% from last year. Most everyone knows someone that's addicted to drugs, and it's a real issue here in the state. I have a couple friends that are addicted, but one really good friend that's addicted, and I began to focus more on the issue after I found out about his addiction and rehab stance. The threat of opioid addiction is real and unbiased. We as a community should stand together to find common ground on real solutions that help combat the issue. Let's look at addiction by the numbers here in the state. Addiction is defined as a person physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without adverse effects. Most people start out with prescription pills and work their way to harder drugs like heroin because it's cheaper. Opioids can be injected, can be taken orally, can be snorted. There are several different ways for people to get it in their body. And some studies show that some people show addiction after only 3 days of use. People throw their back out and are on pain pills for 3 days, and some people show addiction after 3 days. So it's a highly addictive substance. It can often change the brain function in an individual and the perception of reality in the world around them. My friend that I interviewed, we'll call him John, I asked him this same question, if he feels like he is a different person after years of addiction. And he said, yes, I am not the same person mentally I was before. My brain processes things differently and I have little or no remorse for my actions. My friend John started in his teens with prescription pills that he was getting from his parents or his grandparents, and then moved on to heroin in his 20s because it was easier and cheaper to obtain, and it was a lot easier to get his fix that way. It also offers a big financial strain on the state. Tennessee lost $2 billion last year due to opioid addiction. Half of that being medical, people that have been overdosed, people that have overdosed and went into the hospital for treatment. Part of that is treatment for babies that are born addicted to opioids. Their mother was taking opioids while they were pregnant. Another part of that being incarceration, people that were in jail for selling or using drugs. The other half is loss of workforce, people that have lost their jobs because of opioid addiction, and that's up to or over 1% of the population in the state, and that's over $1 billion that is lost in tax revenue in the state because of loss in wages. So let's look at some solutions here in the state. Addiction has recently just become a subject to talk about. It's been taboo for years and years and years. And I think shedding more light on mental and physical rehabilitation, as well as limiting the amount of prescription pills in the state, would help address the problem. My friend John, for instance, was an OSHA engineer, college educated. He was married with 3 kids, and he did a rehab stint a few years ago while he was still married, and finished the stint after 3 months, and then was back using again 2 or 3 months later. So he lost everything: his wife, his kids, his job. So he just recently went into rehab again, and the first rehab cost $2,000 out of pocket. His insurance didn't help pay. He had to pay that money out of his pocket. The second rehab was free, but it was faith-based. My friend, being agnostic, felt very much out of place in this rehab, and I think that is a serious issue in the state. I feel like some programs should be tailored to certain people. It shouldn't just be pigeonholed to being faith-based or to being $2,000 or $3,000 out of pocket that someone should pay. Here in this bottle is 20 pills. There are over 7.5 million prescriptions in the state of Tennessee. Here on this chart, you can see that it's the second most prescribed state of opioids underneath Alabama, with 1.18 million prescriptions per person. There are more prescriptions in the state of Tennessee of opioids than there are people that live here. There's a direct correlation with this as well. Tennessee is the second most addicted state to opioids in the nation. And here on this chart here, you can see that California is the second least prescribed state of opioid prescriptions in the nation. And it's number one in per capita of people that are actually addicted to the drug. So there's a direct correlation to the amount of prescriptions that are prescribed and the amount of people that are addicted. As I said earlier, there were more opioid deaths in the state of Tennessee than there were car crashes. In the 50s and 60s, the government mandated seatbelts in cars because so many people were dying in car crashes. So my question now is, where's the government? When is the government going to stand in and help address this issue? Well, they just passed, the federal government just passed a $2.1 billion spending bill to help address opioid addiction. But my question is, where is that money going to go? Is it going to go to the right places? And I think that mental and physical rehabilitation, as well as limiting the amount of prescriptions, would help address the issue. But obviously there are several other things that would help. In closing, I've seen addiction firsthand, and it's not pretty. Some people just make bad decisions and become addicted, and it just becomes a part of their life. They're often cast aside or considered a product of their own destruction, and they chose to do drugs, so they have to choose to live with that decision. The truth is, we're just beginning to understand the effects of addiction on the brain, and we're just beginning to open that Pandora's box, so to speak, to solutions on addiction and how to actually solve the problem. My question is, put yourself in my shoes or someone else's shoes that is either addicted to drugs, or they know someone very close to them that is addicted. Wouldn't you want them to be treated and to be better and to no longer be addicted to drugs? I think without everyone having an open mindset and everyone coming to the table to find common ground to speak about opioid abuse, it'll never really fully be solved. And I think states and the federal government and individuals really have to address the issue for what it is with an open mind and help combat the issue together. Thank you.